Hi everyone, it's Lisa Mears. Thanks for joining me today. In today's video, I'm going to be making 2 Halloween cards using some new products from the Pretty Pink Posh August release. The first product that I'm going to be using is the Halloween Borders stamp set. You can see it has 4 different borders. I'm going to be using 2 of them, one on each card. I'm not going to be using the dies, but there are coordinating dies available. And the second stamp set that I'm going to be using is the Halloween envelopes stamp set. This set consists of 2 envelopes. The one there on the top has an envelope filled with some Halloween. There's ghosts, spiders, spider webs, Frankenstein, bats. So here's an up close look at that one. And then the one at the bottom is filled with candy, and that one can be used any time of year, not just for Halloween. I can think of using it for Valentine's Day, birthday, anytime. And then here is a coordinating die set. I will be using this banner die to die cut the sentiment, and that banner die is included with the coordinating dies. So I went ahead and stamped out the envelope with the ghost, and I stamped it onto some Bristol Smooth cardstock. I am using my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers to color this up. The colors that I'm using for the envelope are the English Lavender, just going along all of the edges, and then coming in with the blender to blend that out. I will come in a little bit later with a darker purple. I thought it was a little bit too light for what I was going for, so you'll see me come in a little bit later with a darker purple just to add some more color to the envelope. For the Frankenstein, I am using May Green and the blender. And then for the hair, I am coming in with gray as well as the blender to color that. Notice I also stamped a small ghost stamp and a couple of the bats. Those are separate stamps, and they do have separate coordinating dies, so I will be coloring those up as well. So here's where I come in with the darker purple. This is the violet color, and I go all along the edges with the violet, and then I'm going to come in with the blender to blend that color towards the center of each one of those triangles on the envelope. So all of the colors that I use today, I will have listed down in the description box of this video. So if you want to see all of those colors, just take a look down there. In addition, I'll have all of the supplies that I use in this video down in the description box as well. And if you did not see my previous video showing all of the fun products in the Pretty Pink Posh August 2022 release, I will link that video here at the top right hand corner. There are so many fun Halloween products in that release, so do check that out. And I'm just curious to know, do you guys make Halloween cards? Leave me a comment down in the description box and let me know if you like to make Halloween cards. I love to make Halloween cards. I think some of the stamps are so stinking cute and they're just so much fun to color and just to play with. But I'm curious, how many of you like to make Halloween cards? So let me know down in the comments. So here is the envelope with the candy, and once again, this envelope can be used any time of year. You don't need to use this for just Halloween. But I am making a Halloween card with it today, and I'm coloring this up with some of my gray markers. I have the light gray along the edges, so it's the same process that I colored the previous envelope. I'm just going along the triangle borders there and then blending out the light gray color with the blender towards the center of each one of those triangles. Okay, so there are some candy corn on here, but even though there's candy corn, remember, you don't have to just use this for Halloween because candy corn nowadays, they're out any time of year. You can color your candy corn up in some pastel colors. You can color it up with some pastel yellows and blues and pinks for the springtime. You can also color it up with some pinks and reds for Valentine's Day. So there's so many possibilities. So just because you see candy corn in there, please don't just limit your possibilities to just Halloween. This can be used for any occasion. So for the lollipop, I have peach pink, which I colored along the line of that lollipop, and then I blended it out with the sugar almond pink and the blender. My purple color for that larger candy is the violet and the blender. Let's see, I have the May green in the blender for the other green candy. The candy corn is the yellow, orange, and light gray. I did go with the light gray at the bottom of the candy corn because I didn't want to just leave it white. I wanted to add a little bit of shading there. And I'm just going to use some of all of these same colors in all of these other candies. So once again, if you're interested in the colors, check that description box below. So after I color up this stamped image, I will die cut them with the corresponding dies off camera. In the meantime, I'm going to do some embossing. I have a piece of light purple cardstock that I cut down to 4 by 5. And I'm adding some powder all along the top of it using my Pink and Main anti-static brush. Because I'm doing embossing, I don't want the embossing powder to stick on the cardstock where there's no ink, so that's why I added the powder. So what I'm doing is I am taking one of the borders from the Halloween Borders stamp set and I'm putting it along the edge of my cardstock. And I'm closing the door of my Misti and I am going to stamp this down using some Versamark ink. I also want you to notice that I have my Brutus Monroe sticky grid mat underneath that cardstock. It's actually holding that cardstock in place on my Misti, and then I have my magnets holding down the Brutus Monroe sticky grid. So what I'm doing, which you can't see, it's there at the top of the camera, is I'm inking up this stamp with my Versamark ink pad. And I am stamping it down onto the cardstock, so pressing that down really well. After I stamp it down once, I'm going to remove the stamp from the door of the Misti and place it on the next line on my cardstock below the first stamped image and ink up the stamp again and stamp it down. And I'm going to repeat this process all along that cardstock. So again, add the stamp on the third row there on the cardstock and then ink it up and stamp it down. And I'm going to continue in this manner until that cardstock is completely filled with that stamped image. So I skipped some of the steps and I am showing you here that last line of the cardstock where I'm inking it up and just stamping it down on that purple cardstock. Okay, so now that it is completely stamped with the Versamark ink, I'm going to sprinkle on some white embossing powder all over that background. I'm just going to tap off the excess onto my coffee filter. I'm going to hold this with my tweezers. Just make sure that everything is completely covered with embossing powder. I'm going to save the embossing powder that is not used, put it back in the jar, and then I'm going to take my heat tool and I'm going to heat set all of this embossing powder. And I love how these border stamps can be used to create a fun background on the card. And another thing that I was thinking, if you don't like embossing, maybe you can do like a tone on tone image. So instead of doing the embossing with this border stamp, since I have the purple cardstock, maybe doing a lighter purple ink on that stamped image so that it is tone on tone. But I was going for a very subtle look here on my card. I just wanted to have a very light background on this card. But if you take a close look at these images, there are some ghosts and there's some bats and there are also some spider webs. So next I have this Scallop Frame die from Pretty Pink Posh. I die cut it out of some white cardstock. I'm going to add the frame right to the top of this card. Press that down really well, and then I'm going to add my purple ghost envelope to the center. I stamped out Halloween wishes and die cut it using the banner die that corresponds with the Halloween envelope die set. I did tuck the side, the flat edge of that banner underneath that scalloped border. And then I'm going to add some of these other little stamped images to the envelope. So I'll add the bats and I'll add the ghost right on the envelope. I'm going to add some of the Lilac Pearls from Pretty Pink Posh to the top of this card. I add 2 at the top right and 3 at the bottom left. And then I'm going to add this entire layer to an A2 size card base. My card base measures 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And for my next card, I did the same thing with the background, only using a piece of yellow cardstock, and the border stamp that I used has all fun candy pieces on it. So I stamped that down and embossed it with white embossing powder. And I added that frame just like I did with the previous card, and then added the envelope to the center, as well as some of these extra candy pieces I'm just gluing straight down to the envelope. And the sentiment that I'm using on this card says trick or treat. And for the pearls on this card, I'm adding some orange as well as some of the purple. So the orange is the Creamsicle and the purple are the Lilac Pearls, just like I used on the previous card. So here's a closer look. You can see that fun candy background. And here are the 2 cards that I made today. I really love these colors and I really love those stamped images. I think they're so stinking cute. So once again, I will have all supplies listed down in the description box below. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. I will have more inspiration coming from Pretty Pink Posh's Halloween release, so be sure to stay tuned for that. If you're not already a subscriber, click that subscribe button and turn on your bell notifications so that you'll be notified when a new video releases. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.